Well, good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is the March edition of the Texas Author Series in honor of Women's History Month. And also, every second Friday of the month, we make sure that you can count on a great literary event here at the only formal Latino bookstore in Texas. And I got to tell you what I mean by that. So we know the Resistencia Bookstore in Austin. Shouts out to them. Shouts out to the memory of Raul Salinas. However, they're not open every day during business hours. They do pop-ups, which is very important. Additionally, places like Casa Ramirez in Houston, Texas, they're a folk art gallery that happens to have books, but they dedicate themselves more to the folk art. None of this is better or worse than the other. However, I think our community needs a place like this that they can go during the week and enjoy books and peruse books and can count on that place to be open throughout the year during business hours and to continue bringing books into the community. So some people don't even realize that there's only one formal Latino bookstore in all of Texas, and that's this place right here that you've come to tonight on the west side of San Antonio. And we're so happy that you're here tonight, being part of that legacy. And I'm so proud that we can team up to get our stock even bigger, to work with some friends from way back and make new friends, but also make sure that the west side of San Antonio has access to its community and culture. My name is Tony Diaz, El Librotraficante. I'm the literary curator of the Latino Bookstore. I'm also the author of The Tip of the Pyramid, Cultivating Community Cultural Capital. And this is Community Cultural Capital. So, for example, yes, we'd love for you to buy some books. We'd love for you to text your friends and say, hey, they have fantastic jewelry, artwork. They've got posters from the Conjunto festivals also, and great CDs. So that all that's wonderful. But the big difference is that there's a story for everything that we touch, including the writers. Tonight, I'm going to share that with you. We've got a dear close bond with both of them. And that's the case with all the writings. Additionally, as you know, the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center has so many other art forms that blend into this. So, for example, today you're also experiencing the Refusing to Forget exhibit. And a couple months back, we had some of the founders of the Refusing to Forget project. Now, these are actually documenting the history of our gente here in Texas that has been obscured. But what's fantastic is that they've gone out of the way not only to archive it. We have some of the leading PhDs in the country, Dr. Martinez, Dr. Gonzalez from University of Texas, Dr. Trinidad Gonzalez also. But this has been touring to formal museums. This is one of the first times that it is in a community center. And what I love is that here we have poetry tonight in the backdrop of the history that was hidden but is now among us. And again, this is a visual art, our historical representation as we bring you the poetry. And of course, there's also Ballet Folklorico, there's the Cine Festival, there's Conjunto music. All of that comes together at this place, and that's important. The other thing I will add is that some people can get a better deal on Amazon. They can get the book delivered right away. But I tell you what, the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center will take the proceeds and they're going to invest it in our art, in this community. And right now, they're shaping the lives of young folks who will take for granted. So students across the street at Breckenridge, they get school visits on a regular basis. So they're going to grow up thinking that, yeah, you mean writers didn't visit your school? Wait, you've never met a living author? They're getting one of the leading literary educations in the country right now because of your support. But again, all the proceeds go back into what the Guadalupe does, and now it is really lending itself to the literary experience, which it has had tradition of, but now it's in the form of this bookstore. I do want to tell you that next April, during April National Poetry Month, we're going to make it National Poetry and Prose Month. So again, it's every second Friday of the month. So in April, it'll be April 12th, 2024. And we're going to have two folks. Matthew Tavares, he's going to read from his new book. It's a collection of poetry, In Search of Venetian Oceans. And he's from here in San Antonio, but he's published by Defunct Press, which is in Houston, Texas. So we're collaborating all the time. We'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But also, we're bringing you some prose. It's Guadalupe McCall Garcia. It's her book, Hearts of Fire and Snow. But she's published by a New York publisher. But what we try and do is mix it up, genres, folks that are published by independent presses, New York presses, so that we can really combine it and support everybody. And then I do want to give a shout out to some of the supporters. Of course, the City of San Antonio Arts and Culture Department, and also Texas Commission on the Arts. The director, most likely know, is Cristina Bailly, and it was her vision to create a bookstore here. She started years ago, before COVID, and we opened right at the third wave. I lost track of the waves of COVID. There were many. We're like, are we out of the woods? And like, no, you're not. So it was very challenging. But I say all that because she navigated the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center through that storm. A lot of nonprofits, a lot of businesses closed. She kept this place alive, and it is blossoming now. And she believed in the bookstore, and she's been making sure that the infrastructure is here, and it is growing as well. And we're so happy that today we can add two more of our friends to the stock. And I'll give them an overview introduction so you know who both of them are, and then we'll call them up to share their works. Of course, I want to let you know that this is multimedia. So right now, this is being live streamed on the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center's Facebook page. So, in the past, if someone was speaking and you were on your phone, it was rude. Now, if we're talking up here and you're not on your phone, that's kind of rude. Because you're like, you haven't said anything, we're posting. So feel free to go to the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Facebook page and share it. On top of that, Rodrigo Bravo is the audio producer for Nuestra Palabra. Let's give him a round of applause, please. He's not only producing tonight, he's going to take the audio and produce it for a version of our radio show in Houston. So our show airs every Tuesday night on 90.1 FM KPFT. So this will air in Houston as well, and they'll hear about your books. They'll hear about the Latino Bookstore. Van a tener tanta envidia. They're like, wait a minute. The only bookstores in San Antonio? Exactly, right? So when they come here, hopefully they add this as a stop to their visit. And then also he will edit portions of this for the podcast, which you can find on all the platforms. And then, of course, the video may also appear on fox26houston.com so that they will hear you clapping and applauding and not miss it on that version, but you're here live. And then also, after the reading, we'll have 3 questions. Just 3, though. Just 3. So if you're here for extra credit, ask early. And then after that, we ask you to purchase a copy of our authors' books, get them signed, take pictures with them. The other thing I want to ask you to do, too, is if you can buy an extra copy or 2 and donate it to the high schools around here, that would be fantastic, too. Just think about that as well. And on that note, y'all ready for some poetry? All right. You ready? Okay. All right. So we're going to start with Anel Flores, who's a dear friend of mine. And I'm not going to read the bio that you can Google because she's famous. All right. No me importa eso, okay? No me importa eso. What I want to say is that she's been a dear friend of mine for a long time. I've always thought the world of you. And I know we've gotten to hang out at Mocondo, where you're always giving of yourself. And I will say this, what I admire about you is that you give to so many others. And I want people to appreciate that when writers give to others, be it donating their time, their energy, their work, their attention, they're taking away from their own writing. You're not going to say that. You're not going to say that. But I want to mention that because that is a really important gift. That lo haces con todo corazón, yo sé. But we need to understand that not everybody's going to do that. And not everybody can. And it's wonderful for someone like Anel who does that. And I tell you what, when we first opened the bookstore, I can tell you that there were several people who were young writers and would come up and say, oh my gosh, I love poetry. My teacher, Anel Flores, taught me how to. I was like, wow. It was very, very, very touching. And of course, with her book, Empanada, you can take that into a classroom. But I'm going to tell you how I just taught some of her just the other week. When in 2012, And I always want to mention this, we got to remind folks that our history and culture was banned during our lifetime. In 2012, right-wing legislators in Arizona banned Mexican American studies. We all united to overturn that. And also, some of us became book smugglers, Librotraficantes. Yeah, what's up? We try not to reveal ourselves. So. And when the caravan was passing through the 6 cities, it stopped in San Antonio. And Sandra did a wonderful reading for us, the Guadalupe. And you gave a wonderful introduction to that. And I want to introduce you with your own introduction, because this is what happens. This is what you're going to do. You're going to do this too. You're going to put a book in someone's hand. And it's going to have a major impact, because when you went on stage, again, and when I see Anel, I'm like, whoa, she's been a writer all her life, super intellectual. And she revealed to the audience that she had been doing, I'm going to say doing poorly. I'll give the edited version. She had been doing poorly in her course. And a teacher said, here's a book. It's The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. And just like happened in my class today, it still happens. That book is potente. It opened up her eyes to literature, her own voice. And how wonderful then that voice has become so big, so important. And today, you can take that voice home with you. Please welcome La Mera Mera, Anel.
Yes, thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. And I did Empanada, my play. Before this was a book, it was a play. Hi, I'm Anel Flores, and it went to Houston, and it was the first time it left San Antonio. And I was like, oh my God, the biggest moment of my whole entire life. I'm going to Houston. And Tony took me there, helped me, like, I'm going to put you on the radio. You're going to be on Nuestra Palabra. I had an interview, super fun. Then we went to the play. Then afterwards, we went out, and then we were like dancing on tables. I mean, it was like a whole show. Like, that was awesome. It was standing room only in that theater. It was so fun. So Tony, I remember just thinking, I'm actually leaving San Antonio to perform. And it was a life-changing moment for me to be in community with beautiful community of Houston. I love it so much. So thank you. And the Guadalupe, where I've been since I was 16, I'm 47. So I've been here volunteering, working on the stage, doing, all the things in community. I worked here as well as the education director, and I can vouch for Tony that says that this place is doing great education for San Antonio. Put your money here in community. Art changes lives. It really does. I can say, to add to what Tony said, I wouldn't be alive without literature, like just period, right? It's that moment when you open a book and you're like, whoa, I have an identity, right? Or you see yourself on a show or something, or somewhere you exist for the first time, and that happened in Mango Street. So with that in mind, I'm going to start. It is Women's History Month, so I have a lot of things to read for that, for sure. But always, I need to read this because it's timely. It's always timely. It's more timely with trans bodies under attack in Texas and all over the country. In 29 states. And so I have to read it. It's my calling. It's what we do. It's a prayer and a call. So breaking news, it's not okay. June 12th, 2016. 49 shot dead and 53 injured at gay nightclub Pulse, Orlando, Florida. June 13th at 10:15 a.m., the day after. I called my mom because I longed for the feeling of being a baby. The feeling of being held, a safe space to safely crumble and cry. And like my Mexican mommy who raised me on fresh frijoles, tortillas, and peace be with you, she asked, "Are you okay?" I said no and wanted to tell her why, but she interrupted me before I could elaborate or spit out any feelings. She told me, "We need to pray, mija. The Virgencita Jesucristo is waiting for us to give this mugre election up to them." "No, but mommy, I'm scared." And she continued, I know, that's why our Lord wants you to go to him, mija. I kept saying, I am scared in my head. I wanted desperately for her to hear me, wanted her to just listen, like I wanted her to listen when I was scared 23 years before, alone in my dorm, afraid because the student from Lubbock across the hall told me I was going to hell and her Odessa, Texas boyfriend smeared dog shit on my car. But mommy stopped talking to me back then. After she found out I was one of las otras, a lesbiana. I told her again, Mommy, I'm scared of all the hate in the world right now. And she interrupted, Mijita, I'm praying for our world, praying for the evil. And I remembered when I was told by a praying man that I was evil for being a lesbian, a disgrace, disgusting, committing mortal sin. And then I remembered that our soon-to-be president and his people soon had the same words to say about me and my family. Then I remembered my mommy is not the mean man I am afraid of. She loves me, but somewhere in all the battles she had to fight between being punished for speaking Spanish, degraded by her white teacher, segregation, Vietnam, ovarian cancer, the Cold War, multiple sexual assaults from supervisors, her lesbian daughter, and the things she has packed away behind surviving, the hits and blows, somewhere she became so damn scared, she had to stop fighting. I reminded myself that my mommy has come a long way, gone through a lot, loves my wife, my daughters, and me very much, so I tried again. I'm scared, Mommy, I said, and our daughters are scared too. This time I thought she would understand because she knows what it feels like to love her baby so much you'd kill for them, you'd live for them, you'd fight for them. She held my brother to her chest and promised to leave the U.S. if he was called away to the Vietnam War. She felt the way I feel today, so I tried again. Mommy, I'm scared of Donald Trump and all the hateful people he's making more mad and more mean, I said. But something wouldn't let her hear me. Something wouldn't let the fear in, and she interrupted again before I could continue. Mijita, we have to pray. I wanted her to say she was going to come over, maybe make me caldo, sit with me, but she didn't. I wanted her to say she was ready to fight for me, but she didn't. The mucus broke up into my nose and I tried to tell her how scared I was, but she kept praying and telling me it would be okay. And under my breath, on the other side of the phone, I thought, I was scared to hold Erika's hand at the grocery store yesterday, Mommy, just getting out of the car. And I wanted to tell her that I let go of my wife's hand in the parking lot when a huge pickup truck pulled up in front of us because I imagined someone jumping out to beat us with a 2x4, like I had seen done before to a transgender woman on Main and Evergreen on her knees. I wanted to cry and release my fears, but she couldn't hear. She told me again, Mijita, it will be okay, and said goodbye. Tell Erika and the girls I love them. She told me it would be okay to pray, but it's not okay. It's not okay. It is not okay. But before I knew it, she wasn't on the other side of the phone, and I thought I was alone. And then I found this pen and this poem, and you were there, and I was here, and I began to tell you it is not okay. It was not okay when the old white man told me and my wife, let me take you both home to feel what a real dick feels like. It was not okay when the male coach told me at a pep rally he wanted to rip the principal's red leather pants off and fuck her in the custodial closet. It was not okay when my young gay student was tormented by groups of boys near the library over and over until one day he never returned to school, only to hear he died in the bathroom of causes we were never told, but a rope burn around his neck. It was not okay the day we realized there needed to be a suicide hotline just for LGBTQ kids. It was not okay when we realized we needed another hotline just for transgendered kids because the suicide numbers were so high. It was not okay when my wife's ex-husband found it easy and foolproof to use our racist and homophobic laws to threaten her with the custody of our children and deportation. It was not okay when an adult man dragged my 13-year-old body to the beach, jammed his hand into my pants, my face into his, and it wasn't okay the 3 other times the same thing happened at 6, 11, and 16. It was not okay when our daughter's roommate was raped in her dorm building by a swimmer at a Texas university. He got a slap on the hand. She dropped out of school because she was pregnant. It was not okay when I held my father's gun to my head because I believed my fat, raped, ridiculed body was dirty and ugly and my soul was not worthy of walking this world. And it is not okay that when you started reading this, another woman was sexually assaulted in the US. It is not okay that 49 of my queer black and brown sisters, brothers, family, and friends were gunned down dancing to disco cumbia and Puerta Negra on a gay Latin night just hours ago. And this year, 26 transgender black and brown women will be murdered. Next year, 29. The year after that, 26. 2019, 27, 2020, 2021, 2022, 3, 4. I'm losing count. Goddess Goyoshauki, help us. Free us from this patriarchy. It is not okay. So do not tell me it is okay. I am scared. I am fueled. I have a right to be. And I am not going to just pray. I am not going to let you leave here thinking it is okay. I'm going to yell right back at the man who comes at me next time. I'm going to gather people together so we can take this patriarchy down alive. I'm going to give my gente a safe place to land. I'm going to write our truths until someone listens. I'm going to walk with you to your car so no one can lay a hand on you. I'm going to be a phone call away when you want to tell me how scared you are or you just want to talk about your scars. This is not okay. And if you don't believe me, read this again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I was doing a talk at UT yesterday, and I'm like, was that yesterday? I'm asking Erika because she was with me. Thank you, my beautiful wife. And we were talking about the fact that artists and writers and creatives, you know, we're here reading, and this is what you see, and we're like, hello, I'm great, how are you? But before this, we like ripped our heart open, and then we like took it all out, and then it was like all these things falling out, and then we had to like sweat and cry and like not eat sometimes, and you know, just like things spinning and what I need to write. Sometimes there's a call, you know, it's not like, I mean, it feels like it comes through you, you know, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's a hard thing, but it's what we're on this earth for. So I feel that. This is the newest piece that you will get a copy of before you leave today. I'm releasing right now a micro memoir zine. It's a project I've been working on for a while. I don't know why I have to be there if you're right here, but I just realized that. But this is a micro memoir zine, and I'm also a visual artist. So one thing that I really believe in, like you see behind us, is I believe in documentation. I believe that we need to leave documentation of our stories. I believe that our stories there's a gap because, you know, our land was taken, or our voices and our stories and our books was taken. It's still being taken by our education system right now, by the state of Texas, not the teachers, that's for sure. But that happens, so we need to create accessible information to share about people that have been part of the movement for justice, for social justice. And so one legacy project that I'm doing is called Las Maestras, or Mujeres Marcharán. So this is my newest piece about the women and the people who have been carrying me through this, right? That have held me even when I'm sleeping, even when they're not living, when they're not here with us anymore. And this is called Las Maestras, because I don't think we do any of this alone. Like Tony said, Sandra Cisneros like opened me up 30-something years ago. Las Maestras. My secrets didn't have a language until Dad said Abuelita Maria wrote poetry. The librarian waived my late fee so I could check out Nikki Giovanni. Carol Mangden wrote, "Your words are yellow flowers," and "You are a writer, Anel." And then she died. Monica secretly signed me up at an open mic with Trinidad Sanchez at the original Twig Bookshop. Naomi Nye invited me over, read my poems from sheets of loose leaf. We ate cookies, drank tea. I was 18. When Mrs. Sanchez hugged me, my mother hugged me. My dead grandmothers hugged me. Mrs. Sanchez hugged all of me, broken me, ex-Catholic me, raped me, queer me, writer me, messy me, lover me. Eres como mi hija, mija. Nikki Valdez said, church was everywhere. Erica Andrews taught me how to keep the monsters away, how to move with grandeur in our queer bodies every day. Mira, honey, a good red lipstick will take the pain away. I am still lit from her club light on the stage. Gloria Anzalua asked me, where is your tree, your snake, your water, your home? And then she said, right for Koyoshauki. Martha Prentice gave me woman's space, told me to move into the neighborhood. We were neighbors until she retired to the sky. Father Greg let me fly. Norma Cantu wrote my novel outline on the back of El Refugio Cafe menu over breakfast. True story, all this. Liliana Wilson asked me if I loved my art, then proceeded to teach me how to properly pack each painting like a wine glass. Jovita Idar printed the page. Sharon Bridgeforth asked me to erase my mother's name from my over-worried brain, and then asked me, say her name on the page. Say her name on the stage. With my body, Gertrude Baker said, I want to feel your voice on my hand from a 20-foot scaffold over 200 feet away. Arturo Madrid said, our ancestors knew they would never see the city done, so keep on building. In the grocery store aisle, Sister Martha Ann Kirk held my hands in hers and said, keep inspiring women, Anel. Sister Dot taught me there are people who perverse God and people who channel godliness. Lauren Ferris raised her fist and raised us like her own kids. Shimmy scaled building walls studded in leather spikes, shiny stone stilettos showed me how queerness shows up in hetero partnerships. Once she whispered thank you in my ear backstage, and I never had a chance to ask her why. Maria Ibarra and I ate an enormous amount of empanadas around a kitchen island. She whispered lesbian jokes in my ear all night. It was her last Christmas. It wasn't a surprise, but I'd do anything to get back that night. She taught me stage right, stage left. All love is worth the fight. The dead don't only come out at night. Our stories never get old. Always should be told. And secrets cause cancer, and friends are made of gold. Thank you. Thank you. Woo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's the newest, so I'd shifted the energy there. And I'm not sure, where are we on time? Are we keeping maybe 5 more minutes-ish? Whatever works. We good? We feel good? Okay. All right. I'm going to read my first piece from Empanada. It was also the opening piece for the play. And this is called Abuelita's Cafe. I'm going to go up here. I'm feeling a little bit stuck. Is that okay? Okay, cool. All right. Can you hear me well? Or do you need this for the mic? Do you need it for the... Oh, yeah, we'll do it. Perfect. No, it's good. I'll make it work. Thank you. Thank you. It's good for that. I get it. All right. Algo para tomar? Café y agua with a little bit of ice, por favor. This restaurant is one of the very last that still refries their beans the real way, in the bacon drippings. I respect the cook aquí more than those earthy pochos in Las Alamo Heights. They gave into that health kick soy wheat tortilla black bean bullshit. But mi abuelita's cafe upholds San Antonio's fat city reputation, the second fattest city in the U.S. Chavela, the cook and also the owner, was named after La Chavela Vargas. La Señora Vargas, ay, 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 mamacita. She'd howl with her eyes looking towards the sky at a memory. A singer shit con corazón, famosa, la first lesbiana. All in one breath. Y mami, she'd show up chula, I mean chulísima, on a shiny still frame moto to her shows. Hijo. And she always had a different novia, a new girl at every show, una blondie, flaquita y bonita, riding on the back of her bike. This was in the 40s, mija, before you were even in the stars. She held the singer responsible for her soltera lifestyle. Es la Señora Vargas. It's why I'm here, mija, why every chula wants me. I can't deny him, es por la Chavela. Her hand was in the air by this part of the speech. Chavela loves her gorditas. Different from la Chavela Vargas. with a nice sized pancita or panzota in my case, which is why I make sure to eat just enough taquitos, enough to catch an extra long stare from her cigarette ash-colored eyes. I like to keep my skin puffy and soft for the mamacitas. They lean on me and talk about the young ones from the night before at the club who can't even dance. And they talk about their last vieja who went psycho and broke into their car window. Or they tell the latest chisme of La Ileana from the old bar who looks bien buena on the law firm billboard. The chulas like to lean on me and talk. And I like the girls to have a lot to talk about. My cup is already empty. La soltera swings around the counter to cure my cravings. Chavela Vargas, or Chavela, has that Mexican curandera, palm reading, ojo removing, clairvoyant gift. She's the one all the neighborhood viejas come to for answers as to why their sons never came back after the army took them, and why each of their utilities are turning off one by one while their bills keep getting higher and higher. The old women come in lines one at a time after the 2 o'clock lunch rush, wrapped up in headscarves and pearl button blouses. Dios, I accidentally say out loud as she passes by. My brain's response to her body moving in the same rippling waves as the coffee swishing back and forth against the walls of the cup. Mas café, mija? She calls me mija, her little girl, and I look up into her eyes, hoping she is reading my purposely upturned palms that must scream, I love you, in their lines. I lift my eyebrows and smile shyly without showing any teeth. Her squinting eyes and questioning smile ask me, ¿Quieres ser mi chica? I speak again under my breath when she is far away to not hear me. I'll be your girl cuando cierra la tienda. I'm chicken shit, all talk and no do. But I bet if I go to the back where she has the pots of boiling caldo de res y caldo de pollo, I bet she would be alone. No one is allowed to touch her caldo because it is her specialty, named after her abuela, Caldo Maria Olivia. The bowl she serves Caldo Maria in can hold a globo, the polka-dotted ones they sell in the Central and Zacatecas, but instead holds her clear potatoes, whole carrots, a cabbage half, either the pata of the pollo or tuétano in a fist-sized piece of beef, with a thick white stream rising from the edge. Just thinking about her stirring and cutting the ingredients creates a spicy smell in my nose, making me salivate and close my eyes. The perfect amount of daydreaming time passes in between Chavela's hands, hovering over me to refill my porcelain cup, and her slow motion walk, mesmerizing my eyes to the kitchen. Now, my coffee is the perfect temperature for my tongue. Thank you. Thank you. And Empanada, thank you so much. I gotta take it in. My wife always tells me, take it in, take in the applause, take in the thank yous. Thank you. Empanada is a coming of age. It came out in 2012. It's a coming of age story told in vignettes, poetic vignettes, and again was a play and has been performed all over the country, continues to be performed. My next book comes out towards the end of this year or early next year, and that's called Curtains of Rain. This is a young protagonist. Her name is Paloma. She's 17-ish and grows a little bit, maybe to 20 in here. But this next one, Cortinas de Lluvia, or Curtains of Rain, is about Sol. Her name is Sol. I'm not going to read. I'm going to read just a teeny bit. Maybe Erika's going, what? You have to. I'm going to read just a tiny bit of Cortinas de Lluvia, just the opening to get a little bit of the sound. And that is it. Here we go. Just a little bit. And it takes place between the Valle, which in Mission and Brownsville, McAllen, RGV, which is where I was born, and San Antonio. And Sol moves from the valley to San Antonio, which, here I am. But we write what we know, but it's not about me. You know what I mean? But I know a lot about the valley because that's my home. So, and I grew up in the pulga, selling on the weekends. So my parents would work during the week, and on the weekends we would sell on the pulga. It was like always a hustle. It was just the way of life. And so this is a little piece of the pulga, which is the flea market. If you don't know. It's called Rainbow Eraser.
The shoppers at the Pulga came because it was the place they would be seen by everyone, and the place to shop for their last-minute needs. Vendors sold their wares and skills for money to send to their families in other countries, mostly south to Mexico and Central America, but some overseas to Vietnam, India, and Africa. There was even a Western Union puesto with a line out the door morning, noon, and night. They brought Solitaria to the Pulga because her sister Lucia was homesick and they needed a hand at work, even if it was a small hand. All the jewelry was unpacked, tables were set up, and Chon and Flora finished filling the display cases with a puzzle of black velvet trays, complementing a potpourri of chunky rings, rope chains, monogram bracelets, earrings from pill-sized studs to palm-sized hoops, and things in gold you just never knew people wanted, like life-size scorpions and the weeping face of Jesus appearing to be carved from a gold chunk with a chisel. It was just before the church crowd started shopping and the puestos weren't officially open yet. John disappeared through the back halls of the Pulga, giving Flora and Solitaria some space before their first customers arrived. Mija, stay here while I go check on your tío Fito. Flora ran towards Fito's puesto. He pranced towards her, and both friends met in the middle of the aisle with smiles from ear to ear and their hands clenched together in front of their panzas. Are they coming from church or are they coming in last night's clothes? Fito whispered through giggles in Flora's ear, and she leaned into Fito's shoulder pad, giggling just the same. Or do they need to go to confession from last night? Ay, Flora, qué mala eres. They threw their heads back and forth, but I love it. Fito wrapped his flying arms around his friend. Flora swayed from side to side to the mix of songs being played from each puesto's personal-sized boombox. Solitaria watched her mommy and Tío Fito's body vibrate from her hiding place in the broom closet beside their puesto. She wanted to go over there too, but feared John's return. If she didn't behave, he'd never bring her back. Fito, you better get back to the salon before Chon gets back. Lleve esto. Fito held a little bottle of pink water in the palm of his hand. If he comes back todo apestoso from his cigarettes, spray this agua de rosas on him y ojalá que se mejore. Las rosas are milagrosas. Fito smiled shyly and winked his eye. You want my husband to smell like a viejita? Como Nuestra Señora? Sí, llévatelo. Anything better than those pinches cigarros. Flora waved her long mauve fingernails in front of her face. Poochie. Now you're learning, mujer. And that's it. Thank you. I want to just keep reading, which I could, but I won't. But thank you. Y'all are so beautiful. So beautiful to be here. Thank you so much.
They should lead with. And then also, and then your family library grows and blossoms and thrives. But this is so wonderful. Was that a great reading or what? That is fantastic. No, thank you so much. And Anel has capitalism all wrong. So she's supposed to sell this. She's supposed to sell this for $100 each. Instead, con tu puro corazón, you're sharing. This is another work of art. So we look forward to folks leaving with 2 works of art. And more than anything, this is not just a transaction. This is the memory you're going to have when you have this book at your family library. Books will be banned everywhere else, so you'll have the books at home. In your home bastion of intellectual freedom, and you're going to say, me acuerdo esta noche que fui, escuché a Anel, y it was so much fun. I met Icess, me dieron otro regalito. And really, that's what's beautiful about community. And we thank you for being here. We hope you can keep giving back. Thank you so much for that. And of course, I do want to mention that the director of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center is Cristina Bahia, as you know. And we mentioned earlier her contribution to Cultura in many ways, including imagining this space as a Latino bookstore, because otherwise it could have been ignored. And otherwise, if we wait for corporate America to pick places to open bookstores, we are never on that list. Our communities are ensconced in book deserts, except for Cristina Bahia. So here she is to say a few words about her work. Thank you, Cristina.
I want to make sure I get mine. Yeah, it's really lovely to hear you here, Anel, to hear you reading. I was looking forward for the day that we had you here. And all of our guests, that we're going to have. And we've been enjoying listening to so many authors. I think our goal is to have every Latinx author from the state of Texas go through this store at one point or another. So, yeah. And I want to thank Tony for making that a reality. I was like, here, Tony, you do it. Yeah, you do it for us, because he knows everybody. We want to make sure that this is a space where all Latinx authors from the state of Texas are able to have their books available to the public. We are building out our store inventory, little by little. Every time we have authors here, we add to our inventory. This is part of it, and you are part of it. You, our guests, our audience, are part of it in coming and helping us, supporting us and supporting the authors by purchasing these books. My job is always to do the commercials. I do have to thank the funders for the Guadalupe. The only reason we're able to do this, right, this is not corporate. The only reason we're able to do this is because we do have some generous funders, and we do use, I'm going to say it, tax dollars to do some of this, and some of these tax dollars come through the City of San Antonio Department of Arts and Culture. And this is the hotel occupancy tax that helps fund this space. Also from Texas Commission on the Arts, a special grant for cultural districts that we're able to use to do this programming. And then also from the Ford Foundation and the Mellon Foundation that generously support us, as well as many member donations and other supporters. The Guadalupe does have events coming up. You may have heard that our theater is closed down right now. It's shut down for a while for renovations, but we're still having programs. As a matter of fact, tonight, our dance company is doing their semi-annual dance show out at McAllister Theater at SAC, Celebrando Tradiciones. So we're moving our programs around. We're not having them all here, but there are a couple of coming up in the Plaza Guadalupe. On later this month, March, I can't remember these dates off the top of my head, but I think it's like March 23rd, that weekend. We have La Carpa de la Frontera, which is a play by a traveling theater troupe and local artists. And it is precisely about that, the story of the carpas, the teatro, the community theater. And that will be at the Plaza Guadalupe. Information is on our website, and I think there's flyers out at the front that you could pick up. So we do have that coming up. And then on April 12th, our annual Noche de Romance mariachi concert. We had it last year at the Plaza. It was lovely, and the weather will be fine. Okay, it will be fine. So we have that coming up. And then, of course, some more readings. Next, a month from today, we'll have another reading. And then we're gearing up for our Conjunto Festival. Don't forget our Conjunto Festival. Yeah, that's May 15th through the 19th. 3 days out at Rosedale Park, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I think those are our commercials for now. Tony, thank you very much, for helping us put on the program. And to our featured guest tonight, thank you all very much for being here, for being part of the program. We're happy to have you here. We're happy that we finally got you guys here. We're going down a list and, just a comment trying to get everybody in here. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you for your leadership. And one other event we should mention would be in October, the Library of Congress is releasing the Latinx Poetry Anthology, which is a national anthology. And they're launching it from 5 different cities. The only city in Texas is San Antonio. So va a ser una pachanga, pero pachanga de literatura. So are we going to have the streets closed off, Christina? Will the streets be closed off for the festival for poetry in October? Or is that a secret? Never mind, forget it. Nothing's been approved yet. but I'm a fiction writer. Maybe I'm reading fictions. But we are bringing that event in October. It'll be a wonderful poetry festival. So thank you. Thank you all. And thank you for your support. And I think I want to emphasize again, all of our work matters because also next up, Icess Fernandez Rojas is a dear friend of mine, but this is full circle. And I say that because I knew Icess before she was published, and she would come to Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Having Their Say, which turns 26 in April, if you can believe it. Can you believe it? Hijo, right? ¿Verdad? ¿Verdad? Right? And part of our success has been for wonderful, talented folks like yourself. And I remember that you would come with your poems hidden, right? And this is how it happens. We have to trick our poets to reveal their gifts, right? And then, but again, she would help everyone else get ready for the stage. We'd help with the details. Con todo corazón, helping others. So it's wonderful then when we had a chance for her to read on our stage for the first time. I'm remembering a costume. Maybe. I'll let you share that. I remember it vividly in the spotlight, which was fantastic. And it's been wonderful to watch your career grow. And as you became a journalist, a professor at Lone Star College, and also teaches Mexican American Studies at our college, but also has archived, created an index for Mexican American literature at that school to make it even more accessible. And to me, it's beautiful when all of our work blossoms and the rest of the world catches up. This is not the only affirmation, right? But it's nice to see that the rest of the world is waking up to that. And it gives me really great pleasure to welcome you to San Antonio. This is Houston, Texas. But now that your book will be next to Anel's, two of my favorite people, ¿verdad? Con toda familia, Icess, please come up here.
Buenas noches. How is everyone? How is everyone? Así me gusta, así me gusta. I see some people I know. All right, so first of all, I wrote a whole book. It happened. It was finally my turn. It absolutely happened. And so one of the things when I've seen my friends who are all writers and brilliant, and hopefully I have a brand new brilliant writer friend tonight. Thank you. When they read, I always enjoy the storytelling aspect of their readings, how they came to the work, how the work came to be, the inspiration, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to do that. So, aguántate. Okay. I'm gonna start actually just like my brand new friend Anel started. She started with a prayer, essentially, right? I'm gonna start with a prayer, and this first piece is called Word Prayer. I pray my words find a place to land. Hard. Anvils on concrete, on packed earth. I want them to find a stubborn home burrowed in the front yard of a racist. Of a person who nourishes hope that 2020 was taken and not lost. May it tick with a glowing red light counting down seconds. May the explosions assist the roots to dig even deeper and sprout branches of sentences, ribbons of hyperboles, jagged fragments, thorny run-ons. I want that word tree to be the ugliest thing with the most beautiful smell. A contradiction, a song, an unending lullaby, creating sleeping beauties in every neighborhood, on every block, in every apartment house, suburb, condo, townhouse, shack, shotgun house, in every city with freeways like arteries and country back roads like tributaries. My words are a fence around the brokenhearted, the ones who said goodbye to love and those who couldn't be there when it slipped away like a whisper in the wind. Washing hands and wearing masks? Too much to ask of the living. My words or a vaccine raging against an invisible danger, unyielding in its chaos. There is no difference between a 5-year-old or a 95-year-old if you think about it with frozen brainwaves. I pray my words create enough magic to conjure the living of their faults, magic enough to fill water buckets with joyful tears, to drown a pandemic's worth of choking sorrows. My prayer is that words are your blanket too, your armor, your call to arms, your panacea. I have created them for you. So here's how that started. That story came to be. Okay. So I took a poetry writing kind of like, you know, just throw some words on the page type of thing, with one of the members of Vona, um, which is amazing, and the prompt was something like write a prayer for something that ails you, and I'm like, oh God, there's so many things. How do I pick? And I said, all of them, please. It was definitely during the pandemic, and a lot of things were happening in 2020. Things were shutting down. An election happened. And a good friend of mine lost their mother. And in addition to my friend losing their mother, other people were losing their people. And the idea of not being there at someone's final breath, final moments, right? The most you can do is someone in layers of PPE holding up an iPhone to say goodbye breaks my heart even to this day. That you couldn't, I mean, we're humans. Humans are about connection and touch, and you couldn't even touch somebody that you love to say goodbye. And that, I was just like, there's so much to heal, right? Especially after a year like that. And so I said, well, let's try to see if we can heal it with a poem. And so that's how this came to be. Okay, so let's go to the other one. I'm going to read this poem that everybody likes. Every time I read this poem, am I too close? Am I too sparkly? Is that what's going on? Look, let's set it all on fire. I'm setting it on fire. And in San Antonio news tonight, Houston writer came and set it all on fire. She is no longer allowed in the city limits. Bexar County is investigating. Okay. So there's this poem that I wrote that I now read every time I read, because when I read it, people are like, read the poem about basketball. And I'm like, oh God, okay, fine, I'll read it. See, even the audio wants me to read this poem about basketball. All right, so I'm gonna read it. It's called Ball is Life, an ode to Black boy joy before the school bell. This is for the jump shots, the epic dunks, the alley-oops happening when most slurp morning coffee with crusty eyes. By sunrise, you have already won the championship twice. At the buzzer, with the crowd cheering your name before the morning bell rings. This is for that free throw line. Thank you. At the crack in the almost middle of the crooked driveway, where you have made your space, where you hold courts and take cautious care before shooting your shots so that the ball doesn't hit your mom's black Ford Mustang before work. This here is for those LeBron-worthy legend makers, spinning around and throwing magic in each bank shot as backpacks stuffed with last night's homework cheer from the sidelines. Let's give an ode to the joy before the joyless day, where no one can tell you nothing, where you aren't boy but young prince, where you aren't disciplined problem but halftime solution, where your disruptive influence only influences how many points you score before the bus rolls up to take you to school, before first period, before having to tuck away your glory for your game face, surviving suicide drills and dodging rogue passes from the other team. A prayer for the moments before the sun comes up, and that you are the brightest star for miles. We can see you through our collective eyelids. Everything is possible before. You need more air, young sir, in your jump shots, under your wings, to fly away from what is coming, like Jordan in his day. More air in your lungs, double in reserve, so that the breath never leaves you, even if they step on your neck. So the story of that one is that there was literally this neighbor I had, literally a Black boy who lived catty corner from my house. Like, surprise, it's about him. And he was really bad at basketball. Like, he would hit his mom's Ford Mustang. And you could hear, it was an audible gasp, but you can hear from across the street. He'd go, and I was just like, yeah, you're in trouble. And I can see the dent from here. That's at least $500. And so, of course, a lot of interesting things were happening in our country at the time, specifically George Floyd, who is from Houston. And I always, I don't have the great privilege of having children. So I always wonder, especially parents of color, specifically Black parents, what they tell their children about how to survive. I know what my dad told me and my mom told me on how to survive. And if I had a child, that conversation would be so much more in depth, because there's so much more to survive than when I was coming up. And so I was just like, well, there's 10,000 poems on how to survive by being like a person of color. Insert minority, color, and culture here. Like there's lots of them, but we never really get to talk about the joy, right? We never really get to talk about, right? We never get to talk about, like, yeah, you really didn't do last night's homework really well, but like, you're really trying that three from the free throw line that you're still not sinking, homie. I don't know what to tell you, dude. You need to watch some game or something. I don't know. So that's what that poem came about. This next one, it's so surprise. I'm Afro Latina. It's a secret. Don't tell anybody. And so I think one of the things about being Afro Latina, especially when you're living in Texas, is trying to go between two cultures, right? Two ways of life, two ways of living, two ways of thinking, which are very much similar, by the way. And one of the things is this thing called being invited to the cookout. So the Latino version of it is the pachanga. So invited to the pachanga or la carne asada, right? And so, when somebody told me, oh, you're invited to the cookout, I'm like, girl, please. I am the cookout. I don't know who told you that lie, but you better ask somebody. You need to Google me. So I wrote a poem about that. Want to hear it? Here it goes. I'm only funny because I'm nervous. Okay. Cookout invite. She yelps in a fit of glee. Girl, you invited to the cookout. I thank her for her invitation, but apologize for not accepting. I say to her, the cookout was never yours to begin with. That when meat was roasted at a party, it was on Caribbean islands, not in her backyard. That when music is blared over speakers, it is filtered first on drum skins, beats pounded by persistent palms. That when there's a line dance, it happened before cargo hit ships, hit shore, hit colonization. That when dominoes are played by the elders, the trash talking bounced and darted off tongues that made their own ways in the world. Tucked in between spine and rib cage for safekeeping. That when we talk about religion, saints stood in for gods, hidden in virtuous time capsules who have not forgotten that ocean means mother and lightning means father. Before there were hymns, there were chants. Before there were prayers, there were offerings. That when once we dove into a body of water, it was by choice, not because we needed to be swallowed. She looks at me, dangling questions off her earlobes. I can't make her understand that I've already been to the cookout. I have never left. But when she is ready, she is more than welcome to make herself a plate. That's on Facebook, y'all. My mom is gonna be so proud of me. Okay. Yeah. So that's the thing, right? It's just like being Afro Latino or Latina is like, people are just like, oh, we give you permission to be part of us. And you have to remind them and be like, oh, baby, but there would be no us unless we were there first. So you're welcome. And so it's a lot of that, and it's a lot of like kind of educating, right? And so it's just I had this one student. I'm gonna put them on blast because I don't remember their name, so I can't even give you a name. I was teaching, and I was teaching, and I love to code switch when I'm teaching. I love wearing my fro out, like complete, like my fro is huge. Like when I pick it out, it's massive. And I love wearing my fro and then speaking Spanish in class and then looking at the reactions because teachers also need to be entertained. And I love doing that. And I did that one time. And there was a student, she was a Black student in the back of the room. And she's like, I knew you weren't Black. And I'm like, beep, beep, hold up. I mean, like, I didn't put makeup on this morning. So I don't know where you think this color came from. All the way Black. Let's talk about the transatlantic slave trade and where it stopped first. And so there was a moment for educating, and she was just like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, boo. Yeah. Think about that. Think about it. Also, we also speak French, Russian, Dutch. Ooh. Don't go to the Caribbean. You're not going to know what to do with yourself. And so it's a lot of educating. And I do it in a joking way, of course, with mucho amor, siempre con amor. Even though some people don't deserve the amor, but that's okay. That's another poem for another day. Okay, talking about being Afro-Latina, moving on. Do I want to do the one that sings or the one that doesn't sing? Negative! I guess you've been nice to me. All right. So I have a trilogy of poems about Cuba and being Cuban, because my dad's from Cuba, my mom's from Guatemala. This is why I have very curly hair and like am very chaparrita, because like Mayans and like Cubans, like curly hair Mayans, chaparrita, curly hair Cubans, chaparrita Mayans. Okay. And so I have this trilogy, and this is the second of that trilogy. It is called Forgetting Cuba. Con mucho respeto a dos Cardeñas de Isolina Carrillo, who wrote the song Dos Cardeñas. If you ever heard it from Buena Vista Social Club, she is Afro-Latina. Oh, she's awesome. She's awesome. When I heard that, I'm just like, yes, a woman wrote that song. It's gorgeous. Clearly she did. Vámonos. Part one. One day I asked my faraway sister what she had for lunch. Los camellos, the Cuban ingenuity in transportation, buses welded together like the Spanish and African and Taino, rode along the potholed streets of La Habana. My memory triggers. There's a place in the city where the roads are the new bolero, of lamenting verses of speeding cars, a refrain of the charming Frankensteins pieced together with wires and nostalgia, wrapped in good intentions and necessity. My beautiful sister yells the answer into the phone, not because the song is loud, but because Cubans are loud. We yell our whispers and save subtlety for our art. She answers eggs because all she has are eggs. Es que la cosa está dura en Cuba. Things are always shit in Cuba. But the smile hides the challenge with the heavy perfume of Cardeñas coming from the shredded steps of El Malecón. Caribbean waters slap coastline, remembering los momentos before we were Cuba or Spain, before exile was introduced as the reason my abuela only existed in photographs. Jodida pero contenta, the national motto of the key of the Caribbean, forgotten in time among the pages of history like a cautionary tale. And so my sister begs, please don't forget me. But I have already forgotten our conversation. Part two. My tongue trips over words like pinchero or tarecos. My faded memory grabs songs from my father's childhood like smoke from his cigar. Dos cardeñas para ti, con ellas quiero decir, te quiero, te adoro, mi vida. Romeo y Julietas are the best. I only remember because I used Shakespeare to cheat. Romeo and Juliet and love lost. Love lost like my island. My island is lost. My island where Romeo era un tipo jíbaro stained green with work from La Sierra Maestra, a place I've never visited but can recall. How the taste of mata pricks the back of my throat, and how cigar smoke forces tears for obscured ancestors. Ponle todo es tu atención, que serán tu corazón y el mío. My tears flower into cardeñas. Those cardeñas are how my ancestors say hello. Hola, te quiero, te adoro, mi vida. But I have forgotten how to return the greeting. Part 3. Pero si un atardecer las cardeñas de mi amor se mueren, es porque han adivinado que tu amor me ha traicionado, porque existe otro querer. I am lost when I reach for words that were once part of my DNA, and soon I become accustomed to the hole in my identity. I pluck 2 cardeñas in hopes to remember the loss, forgetting why arroz con frijoles negros is only for special days, how Celia and Benny are for New Year's, and the Guantanamera is for always. How salsa was rumba before it was 1 or 2, how the song whispers and shows you how to move through life, through love, through hard times. Es que la cosa está dura en Cuba, pero estamos jodidos y contentos. But you are not on the island. What is a true Cuban without a white rose in January or June? It is the same month when your new tongue begins the words with the same letter. And the rhythm of your step falls away from your native son, and your tongue is dirty with alien words. Cardeñas only last so long. Cardeñas forgotten will wilt. Cardeñas wilted do not return. I push against other people's nostalgia to remember phone calls to a faraway sister, photographs of happy people, heavy cigars, and loud laughs lingering after all-night dances where music whispers, teaching you how to move in Cuban, how the ocean always kisses you if you stand too close. I'm saving what's left of Cuba, my Cuba, using it drop by drop, afraid that it will run out, taking care that a part of it still belongs to me. Yo, it was the ancestors trying to keep me on note though, because I was like, am I really singing this song in front of all these strangers? The answer is yes. Thank you, ancestors. Well, how are we doing on time? We're good? I'm gonna do one more. We good? Are we feeling one more? Let's do it. Okay. I am going to read something that actually a friend of mine loved. So a friend of mine, his name is Reyes Ramirez. Hi, Reyes. When he had his book opening, or he has book thing in Houston, he was one of the readers, right? And he requested that I read this. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot I had written this. I don't even know where this thing is anymore. And he's like, well, look for it because you're a guest reader. I'm like, bet. So I looked for it and I read it. I'm like, oh, word. This actually, if I fix this, I could do it. And I'm going to read, this is, okay, a couple things. One, this is a story about Hurricane Maria that just decimated Puerto Rico, and they're still feeling the after effects of it. If you know anything about the Caribbean, Cuba and Puerto Rico were two wings of the same bird, right? So what happens, what hits Puerto Rico hits Cuba. What hits Cuba hits Puerto Rico and vice versa, right? So it's like we feel each other. Also, I wrote this like 30 minutes before I actually had to like say it. No, yeah, look, I was impressed myself. I read it and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. I might actually be quasi okay in this writing thing. Like I was just like, oh my God. So I'm gonna read it in the voice of a 7-year-old because it's the voice of a 7-year-old. Where's it? Excited? Okay, let's do it. Let me channel It's called When Maria Came to Visit. Dear Santa, my name is Soledad Gonzalez, and I'm 7 years old. I live in Puerto Rico, but I think you know this because you know everything, right? I am writing this letter because I just want one thing for Christmas. I want to know, are you real? My brother Marco said you don't exist, but he's a stupid head. I think you're real because my best friend Lola asked for a doll one year and she got it and she said that you brought it to her. That doll was really nice. And it has nice hair and looked like a real baby. It cried and she would feed it from a plastic bottle. And sometimes when she would let me hold it, it smelled like strawberries. I always get clothes and socks. And mommy said it's because you know that I need them. I wanted a doll like that, but you never brought it to me. But I still asked for a new doll because I wanted something different. But you didn't bring me that. Was I bad? I tried to be good this year. Really, really good. So that way I could get something other than new underwear, which mommy said I also needed. But maybe I wasn't as good as you wanted me to be. Maybe my whole family was mean because the ocean got really angry and took our house. Papi said it was Maria, but I know her and she would never do that. She's nice. And you got her a doll too. In September, we saw the ocean skip over the seawall and fall from the sky. The water was angry and dropped hard on our roof. It sounded like a million fists hitting the ceiling. Mama was scared, and so was I, but Papi said it was going to be okay. He said Puerto Rico was here forever and will always be here. We are made of tough stuff, mija, he said. Puerto Rico, hoy, mañana y siempre. I didn't know what he meant, but that night we all slept in one room just in case Maria wanted to visit. Outside the window, the wind pushed trees over like bullies. It howled at them and made them so scared they bent it in half. The guayaba tree, the one I learned to climb as soon as I could walk, snapped in two. It was so scared. That's when we all jumped. The crack sank into us. Marcos and I ran to the window and saw it. The insides now on the outside. Tree guts pounded by hard, mad rain. I didn't get scared until that moment. Where would I go now when I wanted to hide? Where would we sit during the summer? That tree was big and strong and didn't hurt anyone. My eyes stung with hot tears. Papi came and carried me to my room. In the quiet, I could hear the screaming of hurt coming from my tree. The next day, the angry water came to visit and brought its friends. It filled our house, and we ran through water away from it, but it was everywhere. Marcos took my hand and walked me through. The angry water wrapped itself around me and stuck to me like glue. It wanted to carry me away. I cried, but it wouldn't let me go. That's when Papi carried me on his shoulders, and I could see the world. My neighborhood was a river, and that river carried away the world. In the water, I saw pieces of wood and clothes, and by Lola's house, I saw her doll. The hair was stringy and dark. The dirty skin looks more like mud. Lola's doll floated past us, and we walked away from our home. The water claimed Christmas. Now we are back in our home, but it is not the same. For a long time, there was no water to drink, no food to eat. I was hungry every day. We felt forgotten. She said that the world knows that we need their help. She said this every day, and every day the promise was broken. And so her heart was broken. Marcos and Papi carried pieces of our house outside. Everyone else did the same. So the neighborhood looked more broken than whole. When food and water finally came, the lines were long and the help was short. Papi said that Puerto Rico has never felt like a prison until now. So Santa, do you exist? If you do, I want to make a request. Please find us a new home. A place where people are nice. A place where if people need help, help comes without delay. A place where it doesn't feel like a prison, or a place where my mommy's heart doesn't break. A place to go, a country that loves us as if we were their own. Thank you.
Y'all enjoy that? That was fun. Thank you, Icess. That's how we do it in Houston, right? H-Town in the house. And I love that we have a nice relationship between Houston and San Antonio. You know, para mí, yo no reconozco fronteras, so it's like they go back and forth. Thank you all for joining us for a great night of poetry and commiseration. And I'm going to model the behavior. So this is the opposite of breathing is cement. This is by Icess. And this is Empanada. And we hope then that you will visit, let's see, Ariel will be in front, charging, right? Charging folks for the book and collecting it. Shouts out to her for holding it down for us. Alma Pina is our regular director of the bookstore, so she handles all the details day in, day out. I think I did say we'd take 3 questions. I know folks want to commiserate. Let's take one question. Let's do one question, because I know you want to get extra credit for the final exam. So this way you can get your points. We'll do one. Let's do one question, and then I really want you all then to get a chance to touch base and talk to each other. Any question? One question. Yes. What's the question for Icess? Yes. And I'll say it for the folks watching. The question is, why did Icess, if you can come with her answer, the question is, why did Icess and that poem on the line, that's the only way I can go to sleep?
Because that's the only way I can go to sleep. So a lot of the work in this collection has to do with like mental health, depression, anxiety, identity. I mean, everything, right? And because why not make it like a schizophrenic book? So sometimes like when you are kind of like in that mode, like it's literally, it's just like, what will give me the most comfort? And so that's where I stopped the line. Like sometimes that's how I can go to sleep, knowing that like maybe somebody can hear me and they can hear the fact of all the crazy stuff that's in my brain. Therapy is real. Thank you.
Well, we should balance it out. So one question for Anel. So we can air it. We want to air this in 90.1 FM KPFT. Good. Rodrigo. Rodrigo has a question. And if you could answer from up here, and I'll tell folks the question. The question is that Anel referred to documenting history, and you brought up that so we do so many things that we don't capture it. And the question was, when did you realize this is something we should be focusing on?
Good teachers, you know. I mean, I was so lucky. It's true that I met Naomi Nye when I was 18. I mean, and here we are. I mean, and that was because she was reading at a little tiny bookstore, and I went up to her and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Anel." Like a little. I didn't even know she was like this big old thing, you know. I had no idea. But people like her, but really Sharon Bridgeforth. I'm going to give like a huge shout out to Sharon Bridgeforth, who's this amazing Black writer who's from LA. She's in LA now. She was in San Antonio and Austin doing the Austin Project 20-something years ago, and I got to be in her workshop. The Esperanza was offering a Women of Color, no, it was a Lesbian of Color workshop by Sharon Bridgeforth. I had no idea who she was, and I didn't have anyone to look up to. I was like 19, my mom was stopped talking to me, all that kind of homophobia, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, cool, a lesbian. Wait, I'm going to meet her and we're going to be friends. Like, I had no idea who she was either. Signed up for the workshop, and true story, she challenged me and said, all of our work, it's gone. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, go ask your dad. You know, this is Sharon Bridgeforth, who's now this incredible, I mean, still, and then and now, incredible writer. She's like, go ask your dad where his papers are, because he's from Mexico. Oh, and sure enough, yeah, burned, gone, disappeared, ancestry. You can't find that. It's gone as a Mexicano. And that's just one story. And I was challenged by this amazing, amazing writer to do that work, and then opened up my eyes to Gloria Anzaldúa and all these people that said, our story is missing, and that's the truth. And, you know, then going to grad school with all these white people, like 8 people of color in my whole entire class, and the whole circle is like, why do we write? You know, first day, MFA. And all of my cohort, my group said, oh, I write because of this, this, and this. And then I was like, I have to. What do you mean you have to? Sharon told me. I have no choice. We have to. And that's what Sharon said, and that's what Anzaldúa said, and that's what I realized, that this is missing, you know. And like the Guadalupe, being here is a dream. Having a job here was a dream come true, because they've been doing, they've been doing so much work to document the stories of BIPOC folks, and we need it because, you know, if Sandra Cisneros had not documented the story of this fictional character, this Latina fictional character, I mean, I didn't even know there was a Latina in a book until I was a senior. That sucks. You know, that's too bad. I was just about to graduate. And, you know, learning that, oh, you can document a story even in fiction, and then understanding our fictions are our truths. Sometimes we write fictions out of fear that the truth would be told, right? Or so many different things. So it's like a whole lifetime, but yeah, and grandma stories, you know, there's so many reasons, but we have to keep telling them. Now I understand why it was important to listen to my grandmother and to know why she was touching me a certain way or putting alcohol verde on me. Now I know why it was important to learn that, you know. So thank you. Good question.
Thank you all so much for joining us. I will now model the behavior and purchase these 2 books, and we'll get them signed. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.